Welcome back to the Noir Archive. Tonight, we open a secret archive hidden beneath the ashes of World War II. This is the dark history of the Ratlines, the secret SS escape network that helped Nazi officers vanish after 1945. As Europe burned and the Third Reich collapsed, some of the most wanted war criminals in history disappeared through hidden routes across Italy, Austria, and South America. Protected by forged passports, underground contacts, and Cold War secrets, they escaped justice while the world looked the other way. But who built the Ratlines? Who protected them? And how did men responsible for unimaginable crimes simply vanish into the shadows? Tonight, we uncover the truth. Berlin, 1945. The streets were silent beneath collapsing buildings and drifting ash. Soviet soldiers moved through the ruins of Hitler's empire while Allied investigators searched desperately for surviving Nazi leaders. The Third Reich was dead. Adolf Hitler had committed suicide inside his bunker. Heinrich Himmler had been captured. Germany surrendered unconditionally. To the world, it seemed the nightmare was finally over. But beneath the chaos of post-war Europe, another operation had already begun. An operation hidden in monasteries, refugee camps, underground safe houses, and crowded ports along the Mediterranean Sea. A secret network that would become known as the Ratlines. These escape routes helped SS officers, Gestapo agents, Nazi scientists, and war criminals flee Europe after World War II. Many escaped prosecution entirely. Some disappeared for decades. Others were never found. And according to declassified intelligence files, parts of this network operated with the quiet assistance of powerful individuals who believed the coming Cold War mattered more than justice. This is the story of the Nazi escape network that survived the fall of the Third Reich. When Germany collapsed in May 1945, Europe entered total disorder. Entire cities had been destroyed by bombing campaigns. Millions of refugees wandered across broken roads without identification papers, homes, or governments. Railway systems barely functioned. Borders had become meaningless. Inside this chaos, thousands of former SS officers attempted to disappear. Some burned their uniforms and adopted civilian clothing. Others forged documents or pretended to be ordinary refugees fleeing Soviet forces. Many feared execution if captured. Especially members of the SS. The Schutzstaffel, known simply as the SS, had operated concentration camps, organized mass executions, and enforced Nazi terror across occupied Europe. Allied investigators considered them one of the most criminal organizations in human history. And many SS officers knew they would be hunted forever. So they escaped. At first, these escapes were disorganized. Individual fugitives relied on smugglers, corrupt officials, or sympathetic contacts. But soon, hidden pathways began forming across Austria and northern Italy. The routes became more efficient, more secretive, and far more dangerous. The term Ratlines originally came from nautical ropes used aboard ships. After the war, intelligence agents began using the word to describe escape routes used by Nazi fugitives moving south through Europe. Most routes passed through Austria into Italy. From there, fugitives traveled toward ports like Genoa, where ships departed regularly for South America and the Middle East. The system relied on multiple layers of secrecy. Safe houses provided temporary shelter. Forged identity papers allowed fugitives to move through checkpoints. Church-run refugee organizations offered protection and humanitarian assistance. And in the confusion of post-war Europe, authorities struggled to distinguish real refugees from Nazi war criminals. One of the most controversial figures connected to the Ratlines was Bishop Alois Hudel, an Austrian Catholic bishop living in Rome. Hudel strongly opposed communism and sympathized with certain aspects of German nationalism. According to later investigations, he assisted several Nazi fugitives by helping arrange documents and protection inside church networks. To some, Hudel believed he was saving Europe from Soviet influence. To others, he helped mass murderers escape justice. His role remains one of the darkest controversies in post-war Vatican history. The Ratlines depended on one thing above all else: new identities. Without documents, escape was impossible. Many fugitives obtained temporary travel papers through refugee systems created after the war. The International Committee of the Red Cross issued emergency passports to displaced civilians during the humanitarian crisis. But investigators later discovered that Nazi escapees had infiltrated this process using false names and fabricated backgrounds. A former SS officer might suddenly become a Croatian laborer. A Gestapo commander could reinvent himself as a stateless refugee. Photographs changed. Names disappeared. Histories were erased. Once documents were secured, the fugitives moved south toward Italy's ports. And waiting there were ships capable of carrying them beyond Europe forever. Argentina became one of the primary destinations for escaping Nazis. Under President Juan Perón, Argentina welcomed thousands of European immigrants after the war. Perón admired aspects of European fascism and believed German specialists could help modernize Argentina's military and industrial systems. Quietly, immigration pathways opened. Ships arrived from Genoa carrying refugees, engineers, technicians, and hidden war criminals. Buenos Aires soon became a sanctuary for former Nazis. Some lived openly within German-speaking communities. Others hid under assumed names for decades. Among them was Adolf Eichmann. As one of the key architects of the Holocaust, Eichmann helped organize the deportation of millions of Jews to extermination camps across Europe. After the war, he vanished completely. Using Ratline networks, Eichmann escaped to Argentina under a false identity and lived quietly near Buenos Aires for years. Another fugitive was Joseph Mengele, the infamous Auschwitz doctor known as the Angel of Death. Mengele conducted horrific medical experiments on prisoners inside concentration camps. Yet he also escaped through the Ratlines. For decades, he evaded capture across South America while survivors searched desperately for justice. Perhaps the most disturbing part of the Ratlines story is how global politics helped these networks survive. By the late 1940s, tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union were escalating rapidly. The Cold War had begun. Suddenly, anti-communism became more important than post-war justice. Western intelligence agencies discovered that certain former Nazis possessed valuable information about Soviet military operations and communist networks in Eastern Europe. Some were recruited. Others were protected. And some investigations quietly disappeared. One of the most infamous examples was Klaus Barbie, known as the Butcher of Lyon. During the war, Barbie oversaw torture and executions in occupied France. Yet after 1945, he worked with American intelligence agencies because of his anti-communist experience. Later, Barbie escaped through Ratline networks to Bolivia. For Holocaust survivors, revelations like these felt like betrayal. The world had promised justice after the war. But politics had already changed the rules. As years passed, Nazi hunters began uncovering evidence of the escape networks. Among the most determined investigators was Simon Wiesenthal. A Holocaust survivor himself, Wiesenthal spent decades tracking fugitives who disappeared after the war. He gathered testimonies, analyzed documents, and followed rumors across continents. Slowly, patterns emerged. The same ports. The same forged passports. The same underground contacts. The Ratlines were no longer conspiracy theories. They were real. Then, in 1960, the world learned just how real they truly were. Israeli intelligence agents from Mossad located Adolf Eichmann living in Argentina under the name Ricardo Clement. For weeks, agents secretly observed him before capturing him outside his home near Buenos Aires. Eichmann was smuggled out of Argentina and transported to Israel for trial. The trial shocked the world. For the first time, millions heard direct testimony about the machinery of the Holocaust. But the case also exposed the terrifying scale of the Nazi escape network that had protected Eichmann for nearly 15 years. And if Eichmann had escaped, how many others had vanished forever? Even today, parts of the Ratlines story remain hidden. Historians continue uncovering documents connected to Vatican archives, intelligence files, and South American immigration records. Some records were destroyed. Others remain classified. And many fugitives died before facing justice. Joseph Menchel drowned in Brazil in 1979 while living under a false identity. He was never captured. Dozens of SS officers disappeared completely. The Ratlines became one of the greatest failures of post-war justice. Not because nobody knew the fugitives existed, but because too many powerful people believed other priorities mattered more. Fear of communism, political convenience, intelligence operations, national interests. All of it created the perfect environment for evil to escape. The Ratlines were more than secret escape routes. They were the hidden aftershock of World War II. A dark network built from fear, chaos, ideology, and silence. While Europe tried rebuilding from the ruins of war, former Nazis crossed oceans beneath false names and forged identities. Some rebuilt their lives peacefully while survivors continued searching for answers. And perhaps that is the most disturbing truth of all. The end of the war did not end the shadows. It only pushed them underground. Tonight, abandoned monasteries, forgotten port records, and faded immigration files still whisper fragments of the Ratlines story. Hidden across Europe and South America are the final traces of a network that allowed some of history's most wanted men to disappear into darkness. And somewhere inside those forgotten archives lies one final unanswered question. How many escaped? Without the world ever knowing?